just please remember that when I started this channel, it was like the loudest era of like Berkeley street fighting, where Milo Yiannopoulos would go to a college campus for the specific intention of riling up a bunch of opposition, and all that ever did was made stuff harder for us. I need to remind all you guys, whatever you may remember from that era, all of those like Antifa versus counter protesters versus counter protesters, people fighting in the streets, you know, responding to trying to like protest the university, blah, blah, blah. Every single time that was bad for us because the right had a dedicated, coordinated media apparatus, outlet, and the tools and the skills necessary to propagandize the fuck out of it because that was their primary tactic, whereas the opposition were literally unorganized college students, meaning that even if they acted really well, which they didn't have the ability to capitalize on any of the engagements because, again, fascists live for starting conflicts and then whining about the outcomes of the conflicts they start. That is like their main thing going all the way back to the beginning of fascism. They love that shit. They love that shit. Leftists aren't, and we don't have a predisposition for that, which means that our content creators and the people in media who are sympathetic to us don't do that same thing. They don't engage in that kind of behavior. And in retrospect, you know, if you take a look at like how popular those rabble-rousers got back then, Andy No, Milo Yiannopoulos, versus have you guys seen what it looks like when a person on the right does like a media speaking tour or whatever and just nobody gives a shit? It's been leaning more and more towards that, and I love it. Ben Shapiro will still occasionally do his college tours or whatever, and like, okay, great, you know, but I don't see that much of a fuss about it. And I don't interpret that as like society normalizing it because people are still very negatively polarized against these groups. What I interpret it as is like, just let them be because what they're looking for is conflict. Ben Shapiro does not show up to a college campus to speak to a group of a few hundred students. He shows up there so that well-intentioned but ultimately rhetorically ineffective left-leaning college students will ask him questions or challenge him and lose because he has a bunch of pre-recorded answers listed off, which is why I celebrate people like Alec Gunter who go there prepared with rhetoric. Like, Ben Shapiro is not going to use his encounter with Alec Gunter or Shark Zero as like, here's a clip of me epically owning anybody, because they show up knowing the game. But unless you know the game, like Shark or Alec Gunter do, and Demi Gloom as well, who we saw her thing recently, she did well, I say. You know, if you know the game the way they do, instantly their bit falls apart. But most college students don't know the game, and as a consequence of that, they go up there and they get made a fool of by Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or whatever else. And those are the clips that they use. That's why they're doing it. So what happens if Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro shows up at a college campus, does their little bit for an hour and a half, and then no left-leaning person challenges them? The only questions they get are from other conservatives going, I love you, sir. What happens if that happens? Like, what is the outcome of that? Circle jerking. It's just circle jerking. It's boring. Nothing happens. No videos to make, no content, nothing to galvanize people over, nothing to you know, like form a culture war or talking point over, or nothing to go viral. It's a waste of time. They flew out there, prepared, did their bit, left, hotel room, fly back the next morning or whatever, for nothing. Waste of time. Waste of money, waste of time. They do get paid? They can get paid. I don't care if they get paid. What I care about is how effectively is this being used as a leverage in the broader political battle. And in those cases, it just doesn't. I think that in most cases, it is smart to avoid conflict. I think that when far-right groups are being rabble-rousers on the street, it's usually best to mock them from a distance or not at all. Take videos and act like ordinary people. Don't take videos of them and going, well, as Lenin wrote, the exacerbation of the material conflict between the proletariat and bourgeois has resulted in... Don't do that, okay? Like, just take videos. You're just a regular citizen who's freaking out. Because remember, the whole point is Nazis shouldn't just be repugnant to commies. Nazis should be repugnant to everyone. The kinds of people who show up to counter-protest or even act upset at Nazi groups shouldn't be commies. That's what they want. Nazis want to pose themselves as the scourging fire that cleanses society of communists and degenerates. That's their narrative. They show up and they're they burn them out. That's what they want you to think they are. In reality, they're rats. And they should be treated as such. You know, people, normal people, should just be freaked out by them. So be freaked out by them. If they're going to fight people, you know, because they want to fight, they're gunning for a fight, you know, they're lunatics. They're in a fucking Nazi gang. Of course they're lunatics, you know? If they're going to fight someone, don't have them fight Antifa. Why make it this back and forth thing where it's like, oh, two extremist groups fighting each other? That's what the average person thinks. Don't engage with that. Have them fight cops. Let them rabble rouse. Seriously, we're not in a point in this country where cops will show up to protect Nazis that are vandalizing or attacking people. I know when there are protesters and counter-protesters, the police tend to side with the right. I know. Trust me. I've covered it a million times. I'm not denying that. But that does not mean that cops just flat out have a no arresting Nazis policy. And if you do think that, if you really do think that cops just flat out will not engage with law with far-right protesters, you need to get offline for a bit. I'm very sorry. You need to get you need to like engage a little bit with reality. So in you know, or yeah, if the cops show up and don't do anything, film that. Sure, film that too. You know, if a Nazi dude runs up and attacks you for no reason, you can defend yourself. But I also want to keep in mind, like, let's operate within reasonable degrees of LARP. Okay. When people talk about like defending yourself from Nazi militias, the number of times that groups like this have just gone downtown and started punching people, how often has that happened? Come on. Let's not pretend we're in like the last days of the Weimar Republic here, all right? We're not in a position where like judges, the entire court system, lawyers, university professors, and a bunch of regular people are like quietly shifting their feet waiting for this to break out. We're not in that position. Calm it down a bit. For the most part, groups like this just do a little LARP march and then go back home. Overwhelmingly, that's the outcome. And overwhelmingly, when they do get rowdy, you know, cops may have preferentiality towards them, but cops still respond to what they do. And when you get those beautiful, rare moments where the cops do fight with them, it looks so good for us. It looks so fucking good for us. I love it. But usually that doesn't even happen. So just chill out, you know, videotape whatever they do. If they look bad, that's great. You know, you want to get that on video, obviously. Just don't go up to them and start confronting them. Not only is it bad politically, it's bad for your safety. Like, don't do that. A lot of people want to be like the Antifa warrior in the street, but time and time again, the effectiveness of that role, of that archetype has been challenged, and I just don't think it holds up under scrutiny. At the end of the day, protesting and counter-protesting are all about power. And in this country right now, power is mostly about, do the normies sympathize with you? Because the normies vastly outnumber the far right or the far left. So you really want that. That is power. You really want that power. If you lose that power, you lose. Frankly, you just lose.